Finaleing ending part 7 of The Oil, all other parts down below. 3 months later, I've had to put our house up for sale since I can't afford to live in it by myself. We have a buyer and are currently in the short sale process. Because of that, I've had to go looking for an apartment. It's been a tough search because my credit's taken a hit. As well, it seems now in Ka you need to make 3 times your rent. Which sucks. I carry almost no debt, but whatever. The other hard part is because I have our 2 cats as well. A lot of places don't allow any pets. I know, just get rid of the cats, but I've had them for 11 to 13 years now. They won't get adopted, and they're really good cats. One thinks it's a dog sometimes. They're family, and I don't give up on family. I lost out on some good places, but finally got one and I'm moving in a few weeks. It's defiantly smaller than my house, but all this moving and stuff had helped keep my mind on other things, including adjusting my living situation. The good thing is get to go through all the crap we had and get rid of things. As well, the apartment is a few blocks away from my aunt-in-law, who babysits, and what will be my son's school. As well, I signed up for something like Ninja Warrior here in Northern Cali. So, I've started getting in shape for that, insanity plus resistance training plus a run occasionally. That happened in late October, and it's really helped give me some focus and direction. As for the marriage, as it stands, no progress has been made, no mediation, and my wife still hasn't gotten a lawyer. We have kept things to drop-offs and pickups, but we've had to attend a few school functions together and a family event too as well. She's been warm with me then, but lately, she's kind of ramped it up little. I think because I'm getting my own place and such, she knows which direction that will ultimately lead. As for her relationship, her coworkers and some of our friends have told me that it's over. They avoid each other at work. She's been under a lot of scrutiny from her boss, but I also found out he threatened to transfer her if she has HR coming again for any reason. The other man has been working less hours, and from what his STBX told me, he's been contacting her more and more. Though she's been pressing for divorce because she found somebody else, he has dodged her and her lawyer. My wife's mother has also insinuated that it's over. She's been spending more and more time with her family, trying to keep busy and heal. But then her mom also told me something new that changed the game a little. Her therapist, and technically mine before hers about 6 months ago, diagnosed her with borderline personality disorder, or at least significant traits of. The only 2 that don't line up are long relationship and long employment. Other than that, she right on que. I've done a little research on it and I definitely see it, but then again, I always said it was just a woman being a woman. Her mom told me she's actively trying to understand and deal with it, as opposed to shoving it off. So, we had a BPD having an affair with a narcissist, and both her therapist and mine in 2 separate occasions said it was dynamite just waiting to explode. Her mom also told me they had a huge fight and he called her sick in the head and was the reason he was having other issues in his life. All that, and I have gone out on a couple of dates. Nothing big, and quite frankly I just felt uncomfortable the whole time. So, I'm slowly moving in a direction of my own. She hasn't moved one way or another about our marriage, but seems to be done with the OM. And the summer's here, and instead of planning a family vacation, I'm moving into a smaller apartment, albeit back in our hometown and in a nice neighborhood. That also said, taking my son out on playdates with some of his classmates and their parents has helped make some new friends for me and my wife. And my son seems to be dealing with it okay. He also seems to be along a bit further than the rest of his classmates, in arts and crafts, vocabulary, and critical thinking. So that's where I'm at right now. The affair is an event, the BPD is part of who my wife is, and for the past 18 years it has not been a problem, mostly because it has not reared its ugly head. She's never been the controlling type, and I think some might refer to her being subtly manipulative, like she maybe been during the affair, but I look back and see how that's not been the case. As a matter of fact, I could say that before the birth of our son I'm the one who's been a little more controlling. Or really, just more in charge, or alpha if you would. Something that not only she found attractive, but a dynamic that worked very well in our relationship, and one that I think works in general for most. The affair itself and her actions are its own separate issue to me because with it she has acted out of sorts during the fog. Do I believe that her BPD maybe contribute to it? Yes, I am sure it maybe led to her getting into that situation because of her issues. However, I'd be a chump to allow that to be an excuse from her, and from what my MIL is saying, she is not using it as one. She's looking at the BPD as to why she's felt certain things at certain times. The last time she had depression at the loss of her uncle back in the mid-90s. And how she deals with other people. As well how it maybe contributed to the relationship she was in when we broke up years ago before we got married. That one was with a physically and emotionally abusive ass. And now with the narcissist she was in an affair with, is labeled by both her therapist and mine. Again, this recent diagnosis is not an excuse, and nobody is shying away from it, which really is a first from her. She's doing her research and even confronting her mom and her role in it. Something that my MIL says hasn't been easy. I guess I can be labeled as many things as possible, and maybe because in the past I've never seen these traits come out as they have recently, I could just be a fool. But I've always had a good handle on my wife. I just thought she was being a woman. or at worst a spoiled little brat. Her being an only child, I now see that it was the emotional immaturity part showing itself. But it's never been a major issue, never interfered with our relationship or how we dealt with things. And when that immaturity did show, I would be for minor things of what lead to her passive attitude about certain issues. But that just because I'm a much more direct, headstrong kind of guy. The question then beckons, if it has not been an issue these past years, why should it be now? Obviously, I would take it into account when dealing with her and her crap tests, and any other crap she dishes out, just like before. And in fact, having a name just helps deal with her issues more directly. The reality is I made a vow in sickness and in health. If this is a sickness, it's something that I have dealt with very well. And like somebody said, we might be custom made for each other, but not in a way that was detrimental to each other. Quite frankly, except for the affair, we were quite happy. We had our little issues or problems, but no different than any other married couple. What's for dinner, where to go on vacation. But at the end of the day, the affair is the bigger issue. Dealing with that has been the far bigger problem. To me, the BPD is part of who my wife has been all these years, and it has not deterred the way I felt about her then and won't change now. That might be codependency, it might be a symbiosis, it might be something that has just worked all these years. The affair, though, was prompted by her, as she said in the past, by my criticism and neglect and lack of romance, something that she's now seeing as exaggerated in her head, per her therapist's recommendations. However, the only thing that was correct was the declining romance, something that SMS to happen to most couples after birth of first child. In fact, we were like every other normal couple. The affair, she has said, was inexcusable. It was because she lacked boundaries. That crap allowed herself to be manipulated like before. The relationship with the abuser. That she fell for the other man's pseudo-confidence and caring bull, when in fact he was just a selfish, controlling, and manipulative mama's boy. She may be trying to grasp the situation and understand the whys of both the affair and the BPD, as well as how to handle it when it comes to our son. She may be trying to heal, and possible she may try to come back to the marriage. If she does, nothing changes in my requirements of what I expect from her, BPD or not. But she may find that the longer she has taken, the harder it is for her, because I have been regaining those things that I was before we started dating. The confidence, the swagger if you will, and she knows at some point that means trouble for her, and all the wonderful ladies out there. I have been healing, and there is no way that's not a positive no matter what happens. I'm not looking to getting back together like before, but instead looking at this with a chance to grow as a person. If we do decide to continue the family and the marriage, it would be very easy to see how. If she meets my requirements, this could be a better marriage. And if she doesn't, it's very easy to see how I'm going to make somebody else a very lucky woman. Because they will be getting a much wiser, much more complete person than I was 18 years ago. Everybody deals with infidelity their own way. Because I'm not firing off at this point and scorching the earth in fury doesn't mean I'm not trying to handle things. But I have a son to take into account, so I can't just go off and bail. If I didn't have him, I would be a whole different thing. I am furthering my life and quite frankly am enjoying having the time to myself. I actually have time to do things on my own, catch up on stuff I've been wanting to do. And because I have a good relationship with my MIL and aunt-in-law, I can get them to babysit with little problem. I don't like the downsizing I have to do, but I'm lucky I have a therapist who's helped redefine my mindset to look at it as a positive, not a negative. Luckily, I was a pretty independent person before I met my wife, so that kind of stuff hasn't been a problem. She was never ideal. I often considered her a spoiled little brat sometimes because she could come off as a 4-year-old. Now having a 4-year-old, I find that to be quite the truth. I dealt with her as such then, and somehow that always seemed to work. When that relationship fails, if it has T already, she'll find herself like a lot of WS wondering what's next. But she'll have a son who's already rejecting her and a husband who has started to move on. The problem is my son still asks if mommy's coming back, who still wants his family back. So long as that's something he might want, I may honor it. But it will be on my terms and nothing else. Pure black and white. If not, then no loss at this point. I've become accustomed to it and am enjoying being on my own. And once I really get in shape and truly get my swagger back, then the world is my oyster. And she'll have to compete with the younger, better looking women out there. Either way, it's all the same to me. 2 months later, first the good. Basically, 2 weeks ago I got a text from my wife saying that she hated me and wanted me to leave her alone. At 7 in the morning, I called her to ask her what it was all about and basically got it out of her that the text was meant for the other man. We got into a fight over it, and I basically came down to me saying make an appointment with the mediator, or I'll make an appointment with the judge, for the legal separation still pending. My wife would go on to have a major panic attack later that morning. In between them, my friend had called to let me know that she had been talking to my wife the past few days after her last therapy session how she was ready to come back and make it work. But before then, and after our fight, she went up to the other man in front of everybody and told him she hated him and ruined her life. Confirmed by other coworkers. Suffice to say, we've started the long, painful process of reconciliation. I've laid down the rules. I've set the boundaries according to the most common techniques that work. I've continued my own self-improvement for myself. A letter of no contact has been written and will be sent certified mail to the other man. And I'm planning on sending a copy to her HR department, and we're talking about getting a bigger place together. But most importantly, my son is so happy that we're going to work it out. His art has changed and the things he draws. His storylines for the toys he plays with have also altered. When she told him, "How would you like it if mommy moved back?" he was so happy. Now the bad news. 2 days after all this, I find out that my company is folding and I'll be laid off at the end of the month. So, the job search starts. This doesn't help the stress level of things, but my wife's maternal instinct has kicked in big time. She's often says that one of the things she wanted the most was to be able to take care of me. I'm a pretty independent person, so it's been hard, but she's bending over backward to help. As well, she's been pretty upfront about things and has answered any question I ask, even though it's been somewhat uncomfortable. She canceled her cell, got a new number under my family plan. Little things have changed in her and she's been pretty enthusiastic at starting over. We start seeing a counselor in 2 weeks. She's on vacation right now. I expect a lot of hiccups and bad days. As well, I expect some good days. And a few drunken nights. And of course, I live by the trust but verify creed right now. Comments. How many times did she broke up with other man only to go back to him? When was the last time she did exactly this? Was it January, February? She's addicted to drama. She got addicted to 2 men fighting for her. The possible restraining order? The police? Co-workers all fully aware. HR involved. BW there. Tons of huge public scenes. Mother-in-law on her side no matter what. The pity parties. Your son crying so many times. She didn't care for your son, ever, except to state it and drop crocodile tears. She didn't care to wreck another marriage. She didn't care about her reputation. She didn't care about you. Do you know what irritates me? You basically allowed your wife to spend well over a year having a long-term relationship with another man while still married to you. And the moment she finally sees you getting ready to move on from her by chatting up a cute girl, she immediately pounces on you and asks you to "Are funny how that works, isn't it?" She constantly talked to you the whole time, while letting you know how stretched out the OM makes her feel after they have slept together. Constantly gauging you to ensure that you always stayed behind to pick up the pieces when she knew she was going to crash and burn. Yet the sight of and the thought of you getting friendly with another woman must have sent her over the edge. I feel bad for you. I really, really do. For your sake, I hope this R works for you because you are sure as he'll invest a lot of time to bring it about. But I'll be honest with you, I think it's going to fail because I think she will lose respect for you again once she becomes more comfortable. And I do not believe that you will hold her feet to the fire about how hard she should work to make it up to you. OP responds, "It seems that with every breakup there's been more and more stuff put between them. Each time he's weaseled his way back in, by saying something to her that will make her angry, not calling, then waiting a few days. The difference this time is that my wife recognizes the games he's playing. And yes, I laid down terms a while back, and reiterated them and held solid on them. And still, they are not wavering. Everybody seems to think that I let her in easy, though this has been months in the making. And actually, once I got my own place and started showing that I could live without her, she started kicking things into high gear. Her friend, technically ours and one of my spies, she talks to about her therapy sessions afterwards. She doesn't know the things she tells me. I've heard about the slow progress back, the realization she's been coming to. The one thing I've noticed for people who go through this kind of thing, the one thing you look for when you know it's time to reconcile, is remorse. Not guilt, not fear, but remorse. There was a list I printed out, I think it was from Pit of My Stomachs, and she's hitting the head square on. That's the difference. It's not about her now. In fact, she texts me this morning about how she wants to earn back my trust. She wants to rebuild our foundation, one brick at a time, but it starts with my building. That's the difference. And I understand about not holding her hand and making her work. But I know my wife well enough. She's not and never has been a self-starter. You point her in the right direction, she can take it from there. Give her the keys, and she's okay. She's a little immature that way. Maybe part of the borderline thing. But she still has to read the books, still has to put forth the effort and energy. And it has to be more than she put into the affair. And I know exactly how much that is and what it feels like. She's not getting off easy, at all. I'm going to make her work for it, make her work to recover from the affair. And then we're both going to work on the marriage, together. One of the things my therapist, and hers, had said is to take time to heal before coming back to the relationship. I have been doing that, and it's a path she started after March. I remember some ways back people saying, just file for divorce. It'll knock her off the fence. I do something similar and basically force her to go to the mediator or to the judge. That advice works, and now people aren't happy with that. I just don't get it. I got to a place where I was ready to move on, both inside and out. It's really something you can't fake, and everybody gets there in their own time and way. And along the way, I took the red pill. Why did I take her back? I took her back because I know her better than anybody. I know her true character. Not this alien pod person she had become. I took her back because I could see in my son's eyes how much he wanted his family back, and I knew how much is worth it to him to try. If nobody agrees, that's fine. I've also learned that a lot of people have very extreme views when it comes to cheating, and that's cool too. But not everybody sees it that way. I don't see my wife as an evil person. She never has been. A bit weak-minded, sure, but not evil. She's made some horrendous mistakes, things she will regret for the rest of her life, things I will never forget. Will I make her crawl through glass to make this work? Absolutely. She can do the heavy lifting away from me, but if I don't see it, it doesn't matter. My therapist gave me a huge piece of advice through all this, and more so once she figured out she was borderline. The most important thing I can do is set hard boundaries. Not only is it best for her, but for the marriage. Set them and don't waver. Let her get mad, but don't waver. Not only will it create a better environment for her, but for the marriage, the respect will strengthen. And it will allow for stronger communication, because you'll be forced to talk about things. There are now rules set. They used to be unspoken or assumed. Now we cut to the chase. One last thing. We didn't get the first place we were looking at. My wife is heartbroken about it. She sent me these long texts about how her credit, or our credit, is screwed up now, and how hard it might be. How her selfishness destroyed all that we had worked for. How she deserves to be out on the street, and how me and my son don't deserve any of her bad karma. It's been weighing heavily on her all day, to the point where she got herself into another panic attack. The only thing I could do was agree with her, cause it is her fault. But like everything else, we'll get through it, if she's willing to work and deal with the consequences. And every time I hear my son talk about getting all of his toys in a new room and how happy he is now that mommy and daddy and him can do things together again, the more I know it'll be worth the effort. It might fail now, or it might fail in 12 years, or it might succeed, but I won't know unless she tries. Half a year later, we got a nice house in our hometown in a nice part of the school district. We also live close to some of my son's preschool classmates and have neighbors with kids my son's age. It's taken a little while to get back in the flow of things. Some stuff has been really easy. Some stuff has been not so much. I have placed very strict boundaries on what isn't allowed. And we all know what that is. Because she's back on my family plan, checking the phone is easy. She also leaves it out every night free for me to check. Nothing is deleted. Everything else has been pretty much an open book in those regards. So trust but verify has been in full effect. On that front, everything looks good. She's also been accountable for her time, where she is and with who. We have a few counseling sessions under our belt. The holidays slowed things down a bit, but communication is being opened up. Some parts are slow because our therapist is trying to have us avoid talking about the affair at home and without her around. Some of it does slip out, but the focus has to be on the marriage part and fixing what went wrong. That said, there are some pretty big fights. She assumes I haven't changed, and I assume she's out of her mind. But in reality, the fights are mostly over home stuff. The few that we've had about the affair is more about the aftermath stuff. Me showing more emotion mostly, which I have to explain that I'm a little on the guarded side. But she's also trying. Our communication is better. Not perfect, but better. She's definitely kicked up helping around the house. Other little things where she's been not so great in the past, she's putting it there, and making it up to our son. That's been a huge part of what's been going on. The change in his attitude and behavior has been amazing. Every morning he asks if Mom is here and what we're doing today. He wants to do everything together. He started pedaling on his bike, finally, and now he loves going riding around the block together. The way he plays with his toys, the pictures he draws, also improved. Also, we've made good friends with the neighbors, both young married couples, and having that positivity has helped. At the same time, a pair of good friends have been having normal marital problems, and watching them go through their issues the past couple of months has made her realize how lucky she is. It's not all wine and roses, and we still have a long way to go. We have a lot to talk about still, things I need to get out, handle, issues that led her to do what she did. There are times when she's sorry, times when she's remorseful, and times when she's just a bee. Times when I wasn't to hang out with her, have fun, live normally. And days where I want nothing to do with her, and I tell her and she backs off. By the way she talks about him when it does come up, I get the impression that she's completely over him. I saw her phone bill from March to when she signed back on the family plan, and it pretty much confirms that it pretty much ended when she said. Though it also looked like he tried to get her back a few times, and from what people tell me at her job he treats her indifferently. Like the kind of guy who acts like he's better, or as one person put it, acts like he broke up with her. The ex-wife told me he's upped the level of nastiness to her too, and he wasn't so great to her around the holidays. It's a process that moves a lot slower than I'd like, but I'm an impatient kind of guy. There are days when it's brutally exhausting. I definitely have to remember that there is a time and place for certain things, and sometimes when I trigger, I just have to file it and bring it up at a better time. And for those who may be curious, because we're all human, we have had a few bouts of intimacy helped by a bit too much wine. And yes, those thoughts creep in the day after. I really can't get hung up on them at the wrong time, because it really does a number on my head. But we are progressing forward. I'm seeing what I need to see, and when I don't or I question something, I try to bring it up at the right time and handle it. And sometimes, because of the low-grade BPD, it's like dealing with a child. Not maddeningly so, but it's pretty much the same issue we had before. Her expectations. Sometimes she still thinks things should be like they are in the movies or something. Then I bring her back down to earth, and talking about it helps, as does the meds. Again, not perfect, but she's trying. And most of the time, I do see the effort. I see her willingness. It doesn't always work, but I see it. So that the update on our road to reconciliation. My comment: why is she still working with him? OP took the R road over almost 2 years of drama. Was it worth it? Only he would know. Do you think it's worth it for your family? Comment down below how you feel, and do you think there was an alternative route?